Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Tuesday lunch edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, as always, Rusty Buckets, but this is kind of like the old days in high school when everybody had that one voicemail where they were like, hello? Hello? Hey, sorry, I'm not here. Leave your message, right? I used to piss everybody off. Well, this is not live. This is recorded Monday evening. My co-host, the one and only Drew Gann, has a work commitment I let him talk about. So just so you know, this is not live.
Yeah. So going live has been the biggest treat that we've had since we've started going live, I guess a couple months ago. And it fits perfectly into our schedule. It keeps us from missing any kind of family time or staying up late at night to record these. It just works out perfectly, except for the times in which I'm forced into a noon meeting on a Tuesday. And that is what is the case today as you're listening to this. I am currently in a meeting talking about a substation with, I'm not even going to bore you with the details. It's really boring for anybody who's not involved with it. So we are not live. We do appreciate the comments. We will get in here. Rusty especially will try to get in here at noon and talk with you guys. But it's not live. But we'll be live again on Thursday. Never fear.
Yes, so I appreciate y'all being here. I am here in the comments. Hey, future Rusty, hanging out with you, chatting. So let me know if you. That's the only pun I'm gonna have. I'm not gonna do a pun. I'm gonna have that one today. So so we appreciate y'all being here. We got those caveats out of the way. We got a jam-packed show today. We're gonna try and get through it. So let's get into it.
All right, we're back on our normal routine after last Thursday's trade deadline super show. We're back to our normal Tuesday and Thursday routines, and that means on Tuesday, it is time for everybody's favorite waste of time. It's where me and Rusty, two friends of over a decade, just catch up because we don't typically see each other talk much over the weekend. We catch up about our weekends. This weekend was a little different. I saw you all day on Saturday, but I set them up. You knock them down. Rusty, what's the best thing that happened to you this weekend?
It was Saturday. We had a blast, man. I had so much fun being a glorified Uber. So Uncle Buck, you'll get into his here in a minute, but while him and Braxton were in the FedEx Forum, I took a lap around Bass Pro downtown. I had been there forever. And then I went and parked at this really nice little spacious park on Mud Island. And I read like 150 pages of my book. It was very relaxing. It was some downtime that I needed. Real quick, funny side story. I text Maggie, I sent her a picture of the river and told her where I was at. And she goes, "You're not at the parking lot where they pick up the prostitutes, are you?" I was like, God, I hope not. I was like, God, I hope not. I'm just trying to read. Turns out I was not at the nefarious parking lot because I have a strictly anti-nefarious policy. And so I was at the right one and I read. But Saturday was great. And then the food at Wiseacre was awesome.
Yep.
The game was kind of a dud. More on that to come later. But it was great company with you and Braxton and had a really good time Saturday.
Yeah, so I guess I should have led this off then. My best of the week is my Saturday Grizzlies experience with my son. And Rusty was there too, but, take it down a notch that I had to include Rusty. I'm just kidding. Couldn't have done it without him. He drove us everywhere. But as I told everybody on this show and multiple shows, it was really exciting this Christmas. Instead of giving gifts and toys, we gave gifts, but instead of toys, we tried to give our older kids an experience. And so my daughter went with my wife to a concert a couple weeks ago. And then Saturday was our experience with Braxton where we did the youth camp that the Grizzlies put on. It was an awesome camp. It was an hour long in FedEx Forum. They got to play on the throwback court right there in the middle of FedEx Forum for an hour. They did drills. They did all kinds of stuff. And that was a lot of fun. He just got to go and play on the court. And I asked him afterwards, I said, "What'd you think?" He was like, "It was a lot more work. I'm tired." I was like, "What do you think was going to happen?" He's like, "I thought the player was going to be here and we were just going to shoot baskets." I was like, "No, not on game day. You're not going to. We cannot afford that package, son." So after that, we did go get lunch with Rusty and we went for shoot around, which was another first for me. And then we got tickets to the game Saturday night against the Thunder. And all in all, just the experience was a 10 out of 10. I'm not going to get into the outcome of the game because the outcome of the game wasn't important for what the reason why we bought the tickets.
Yeah.
It was a day with my boy and buckets, and we had an amazing time. So that's my best of the week. I'll get my beef of the week out of the way as well. And that was just kind of the Super Bowl experience is not what I once wanted it to be. So when I was a kid, or when I was younger, I guess even as a young adult, I wanted the Super Bowl party. Back in the day when Rusty was living in Corinth, we always watched a Super Bowl at his house. We ate a bunch of wings, and that was a ton of fun.
Grandma's
I look
hands,
back at those memories fondly with Grandma's hands wings. We ate so many wings, we went back for seconds at halftime to get more.
And they gave us a deal. Like, we had bought 100 wings, and we went back for 50 more, and they were like, "We'll knock half the price off." We were like, "Sold."
Sold. But as an adult, with kids especially, when all my parties now involve kids, and it makes me just want to stay at home because I don't get to enjoy the Super Bowl the way that I want to enjoy the Super Bowl. I want to watch the commercials. I want to hear the commentators. It's the biggest football game of the year, and I want to appreciate the football game. And you don't do that in large groups of people with large amounts of kids. I'm very fortunate. Our house, despite being built in the 50s, it has an addition that has a den in it that I can go shove the kids in, put on some cartoons, and I can have simulated quiet while I watch football. It doesn't last for the whole game, but I get bits and pieces of quiet through there.
Yeah.
And at the Super Bowl parties nowadays, I don't get that. I never. And so I missed out on a lot of the commercials. I missed out on a lot of the nuances of the halftime show and stuff we'll get to, but I want to go back to a Super Bowl party that's at most 3 couples and their kids, as long as they have a safe space to play outside of the viewing area.
I'm pretty sure most houses have a backyard and kids can fend for themselves out there. If it ain't
February, man. It's February.
I don't care. My dog does fine out there, so whatever.
That's apples and apples for sure.
It is. Yeah, my beef for the week's the same, man. With the Super Bowl, we'll kind of get into it a little bit. We won't dwell on it too much, but it's just like I didn't feel the same hype. Like it was probably partly because it was a rematch from 2 years ago. Patrick Mahomes, it felt like it sold his soul to the devil, and we just, they were ultimately going to win. And it was fun in the first half to watch Philadelphia just come out and punk Kansas City. Yeah. But midway through the third quarter, it's like, I mean, this is over. Like, there's no point in it. Like, the outcome is inevitable. And so it wasn't the game that we had hoped for. The hype leading up to it wasn't just like, it just wasn't the Super Bowl, man. It just didn't feel like it. Literally, my roommate, Craig, came up to me on Friday and was like, "Did you know the Super Bowl's Sunday?" Or Saturday, actually. It was Saturday morning. He said, Super Bowl's tomorrow? And I was like, I guess it is, because like neither of us really like knew that was coming. It just kind of snuck up this year, and it just didn't have the same pomp and circumstances. And part of it, probably we're very much in tune to the Grizzlies. Yeah, the trade deadline had a lot to do with it, but I don't feel like at large it had quite the hype that it normally does.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. It's like, how often does it line up this with a trade deadline that was this consequential for NBA fans, with Luka getting traded and AD and Jimmy Butler and De'Aaron Fox? Like, it was just so circumstantial. And then Thursday being the big trade deadline for Grizzlies fans is all you were thinking about. That was before the Super Bowl, so I'll worry about the Super Bowl on Friday.
Yeah.
And I agree with all your points there as to why it was kind of did not have the lead up that normal Super Bowls do. And the game then didn't pay off. So I gave it until I told my wife, we were at a friend's house, and I told her, I was like, listen, we're going to give the Chiefs the first drive in the third quarter because they got the ball after half. We've seen 28-3 come back before in the second half. Like, we're going to give them the first drive of the third quarter, see if they worked out some bugs in the locker room. And then they came out and went 3 and out, I think, and punted. And I was like, okay, this one's over. I'm ready when you are. The kids are sleepy. And I watched the end of the game. I had it on my phone, laying it in the floor and just listening to it. Like, I wasn't even watching.
Yeah. I was watching the Real app after about probably the second drive of the third quarter. Maggie's not the biggest football fan, and God love her, I make her watch a ton of basketball, so I don't make her watch a lot of football. And so she powered through it until the end. And we are hooked on this show on Apple TV called Silo. And I was starting to itch for it because the game was boring. And I was like, let's put Silo on. I'm
right
over it at this point. And so
pick your battles. This was the game you had to pick your battles. Yeah,
that's it. And I will gladly listen. She watches way for a significant other. She watches way more Grizzly games than most. And so I will gladly take Grizzly games and let her have the Super Bowl off, especially when it was a dud like that. But speaking of Grizzlies, Drew, we got a lot of Grizzlies news to talk about, so let's not waste any more time. The Memphis Grizzlies had the trade deadline last Thursday. Drew and I were here for the marathon show. Dude, I had a lot of fun with that. Shout out to Kenny for giving us a bathroom break because we both were doing the dance here in our chairs. And then Kenny's like, hey, I can hop in and give y'all a bathroom break. And we were like,
Please.
So if you were here for that marathon, first of all, get a life. Why are you hanging out with us for 2 hours? Second of all, thank you. That was awesome. The comments were popping and it crashed out hard, Drew. So we're several days removed now. By this recording, we're 4 days removed. What's your overall take on how the trade deadline shook out for the Memphis Grizzlies?
I still have to be fine with it. I'm still happy with the team that we've got. I know we didn't land the superstar, but leading up to the trade deadline, I said that there's a real possibility that we're going to not make any significant moves, and that's okay. And that's what happened. So I have to be okay with it, despite Saturday being such a debacle. Although I don't think that was a personnel issue as much as it was a mindset issue.
Because the likelihood is whoever we got was not going to play Saturday anyway, but more on that to come.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess I'm still okay with it. I'm not the biggest naysayer when it comes to the Marcus Smart news. I know there's a lot of people that thought that Marcus Smart would have been important in the playoffs. I don't think he should have played. Therefore, I don't really think his voice is a voice that was going to be respected, especially since he hasn't played really his whole tenure for the Grizzlies. And then Jake LaRavia, as much as I love him and stump for him on this show, I know that in the playoffs, he was not going to play. Yeah. And so I'm good with it. We're going to see what happens. I still one day want to see Zach Kleiman seal the deal on one of these trades we keep hearing about being in the mix for.
Agreed. And so that's kind of where I land. Back this summer, you gave me crap about it then and now, rightfully so. I was stumping for roster flexibility. Let's roll it out. Let's see what we have, right? And that's what we got. So summer me is happy. But what I saw leading up to it, I did think that a move was necessary. And again, I don't think, and I know some people, and you're probably in the comments now, Future Rusty set them straight, but you can stump all you want and say, see, we should have gotten Cam Johnson or we should have gotten Kevin Durant. But this is not 2K. Couple things. This is not 2K. We don't have auto trade put on. We clearly called about Kevin Durant. It was reported we called about 2 hours before the trade deadline ended. We obviously had conversations around Jimmy Butler. The ZK said no formal offer was made. That's word salad. We were engaged, but no formal offer was made. It wasn't written down, but we were engaged in that trade conversation.
It's like the old college football thing. You only offer the coach that you hire so that you can always say, we got our guy. Nobody ever wants to say, oh, we offered 8 coaches, even though you probably did talk seriously with 8 coaches. I didn't offer only one, and he took the job.
That's it. And so that's what that means. In the end, Cam Johnson ended up being more expensive than what we wanted to pay. And we also saw what the league at large thought about Marcus Smart's trade value. The fact that we literally had to send a first-round pick with him to Washington to get him off of our roster. And so, we valued Marcus Smart and we as in fans, way more than the league at large did. Thanks in large part to websites like Fanspo and ESPN Trade Machine and all these places where anybody with a pulse can log on there and make a trade that's this works. It makes sense. But this is not real life. And so for me, it's a bummer that that's how it went. It is. I would have loved Cam Johnson on this team. I still think that there's a real chance we could get Cam Johnson this summer, probably for a heck of a lot cheaper when the Spurs offered a young prospect and 2 first-round picks and they said no. So we'll be able to get him a lot cheaper this summer if we choose to go that way. But I am completely fine with betting on the leaders that we have on this team, Ja, Dez, and Jaren, and the youth that we have on this team with Gigi, Jalen, Vince, and Edie, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I would have been much angrier at the trade deadline if Cam Johnson, Colin Sexton, John Collins, all these guys were moved to other teams, but they weren't. Ultimately, every single person, and Zach Kleiman said this in his post-trade deadline press conference, everybody we called about, nobody actually left their team. No offer was beaten. Our offer did not get beaten. They just didn't take any offer that was on the table. And Cam Johnson, they had to have 10 offers all on the table. Same with Sexton. It didn't happen. And you can blame Zach Kleiman, say he couldn't seal the deal, whatever. But chances are, I'm going to bet money that the reason why these players are not playing for the Grizzlies is because he was not willing to give up G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., or Jalen Wells.
And call us apologists or purists or whatever you want, but that's the fact. Like, that's very likely what happened. And I'm going to choose to believe that he stood on business and said no, especially in the Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler trades. Like, miss me with, let's send out Gigi for 1 year of Jimmy Butler or Kevin Durant. Like, yeah, that probably leads to a championship, but then you've effectively closed your championship window when neither of them re-sign next year versus you ride with what you have now. You see, okay, after the Thunder game, we clearly need rebounding help, and we still need another bucket for when guys like Ja and Dez just don't have it. Right. Let's do that this summer. You forget, like, the trade deadline is closed from now until June, but after the finals, teams can still move players around. So there's still a likelihood that there's a new Memphis Grizzly next year. And you and I have already kind of talked about this. Like, we talk about that more in a second. Love your thoughts, but also, Drew, we're kind of talking ourselves into the idea of Marvin Bagley being somebody that could inject life in the team. Not that he's going to be a role player, but somebody that could provide a spark.
Yeah. And just to put a bow, like, it's obvious too that whether you want to admit it or not, these players are not wanting to come to Memphis. And that makes you prize your draft picks even more. Exactly. Because Kevin Durant said, I don't want to go to Memphis. Jimmy Butler said, I don't want to come to Memphis. And you always thought that John Morant would allow people the desire to come play for Memphis. But that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And so it makes you covet those draft picks even more.
When you're the smallest market of the team, the smallest market in the NBA, that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Marvin Bagley, I mean, you watch the supercuts of him last year playing for a deplorable Washington Wizards team, and I totally see it. He was – the fact that we're talking about his college career says all you need to know about his pro career, 7 years into his pro career for Marvin Bagley. But his college career, what you saw is what you saw glimpses of last year, and that is just a tall, high-motor rebounder and finisher. And if that's not exactly what the archetype is that works well with John Morant, then I don't know what to tell you. If he's healthy and you get topped out Marvin Bagley, what you're looking at is a taller Brandon Clark. Neither of them shoot the three very well. They're both very active, good rebounders, and can score in the post. And so, I mean, I'm all in on giving Marvin Bagley a try. His problem has always been, can he stay healthy? And if he does stay healthy, it's on absolute rat teams. And this is a dude who, coming out of college, was a fierce, high-motor competitor. And he has not been in a situation that allows him to compete. And so I've got hopes. I want to see him get some run. And I know that his run is going to be limited if everybody stays healthy, particularly your bigs. But I do want to see him get some run.
Agreed, because we've talked about it. He's a bigger Brandon Clark. He's a great lob threat. He's a rim protector. And, Drew, I give you a couple case examples of careers we revitalized in Memphis. One, Tony Allen, who's number 9, will be put in the Raptors next month. One, Zach Randolph, whose number is already in the Raptors. And you could probably throw Marc Gasol in there because he was just kind of a second-round draft pick with the Lakers and really wasn't going to amount to much out there. So you could throw those guys in there. Tayshaun Prince came in and had a decent back half of his career. So, we've been known to help guys revitalize careers. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Bagley's going to be our starting big.
You've also seen you bring in the injured guys and it doesn't work out.
Danny Green, Marcus Smart, like it happens, right? It does.
Chandler Parsons,
No,
Winslow.
We do not say the CP word on this show.
I'm making my point.
An anti-Parsons show.
If I'm trying to make a point, I'm not going to take out Exhibit A. Okay.
I hear you. Anyway, God, man, I was already having a rough day, and now you're making it worse by talking about Parsons. Anyway, so I'm not sitting here saying that he's going to be our starting big or one of our bigs contributing in the postseason. But why not see what happens? Edey, we'll get transition to Thunder game here in a minute, was absolutely unplayable Saturday night. It forced us to go small ball, and we got our butt kicked on the glass because of it. That was my point on the Daily Grind yesterday morning. Not that Edey was unplayable. And so on nights like that, maybe Bagley is the answer. He can come in and give you some minutes. And so, again, I don't think he's going to be a high-level contributor, but there is upside. It's not a complete wash.
I can 100% see a scenario where Bagley is healthy and active, that he is a better fit with John Morant than Zach Edey. I've been saying that. I've been on this train since before the season started.
That's why I wanted Khalil Ware, because he's big, he's athletic, he plays above the rim, and Ja does not have a lob threat right now. Gigi can be that. Gigi's probably the closest to a lob threat that we have, but he's only 6'10". You get Marvin Bagley down there. Marvin Bagley is a true lob threat. And so now, especially with the way Ja is averaging 7.5 assists this year, the most of his career, you add a guy like Marvin Bagley, that might get closer to 9.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it turns out to be.
All right, we've danced around it long enough, man. That Thunder game Saturday night was not what we'd hoped for, especially me personally, because I'm an optimist by nature. I can't help it. It's just who I am. I'm glass half full, always am. And I went in Saturday like, this is going to be a great palate cleanser. We were talking about it. We've got a good feeling. We've got that nervous energy, but not like the dread from the Rockets game earlier in the year.
Right.
This is very much like this is a game we can flex and we can get a win.
Yeah.
And brother, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, like Mike Tyson says. We got punched in the mouth early and never recovered.
Yeah, it was very frustrating. About a month ago, I said, I think we were talking about, I guess it was the New Year's Eve show where I said, what do I want? I want for February 8th to have a full allotment of players and to see where we stack up against the best team in the West. We got that. Wish granted. We had a full allotment of players, and we saw how we stacked up against the best team in the West. And it was an absolutely piss poor effort and just embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing. And I had to have the talk with my son on the way home. I was like, listen, you have to play with character. This is not what you saw tonight. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They just folded. Again, they folded just like they did in the Knicks game.
Cheap suit,
and it was frustrating because you can say that, oh, we got outplayed. Oh, they made every shot. We missed every shot. The truth of the matter is that game was decided in the trenches, to take it to a football term.
Absolutely.
The Eagles won in the trenches at the Super Bowl. The Grizzlies lost in the trenches Saturday night, getting out-rebounded. Awful. I mean, out-rebounded. Points off turnover. Second chance points. It was the gritty stuff.
Third chance points.
Yeah, third chance points, as Parrish said yesterday morning on the Daily Grind. That's a stat that the Grizzlies are going to force people to start taking, because it was embarrassing. They came into your court minus Lou Dort, minus Chet, given the fact, he's only played one game this year, and without Case and Wallace, and they punked you. They just absolutely punked you. John Morant threw in the towel halfway through the first quarter when he realized he wasn't going to be able to drive and he wasn't going to get any calls. And his dad got kicked out in the fourth quarter. It was just disgusting. It was an awful loss. The more I've thought about it, the madder I've gotten, because Saturday was a good day for me. As I drove home, I was like, this has been a good day. I got to hang out with my boy all day long. We got to do stuff we'll probably never get to do again. And then, Sunday started happening, and Monday morning started happening, and I started just listening and replaying that game in my head, and I just get madder and madder and madder.
That's it, because Edey gave us no choice but to run small, and then Hartenstein had a field day on the glass, just dominating smaller bodies. And Jaren got buckets. Dez didn't have his best stuff because he'd come back from an injury, and that's the other thing. To kind of look at it from the other perspective, because we're not going to spend much time on that Thunder game. The Grizzlies spent about a half a quarter invested in that game. We're not giving it any more time than we already have. But to me, we can't. So we had an opportunity to hit reset, and we didn't, because there was no effort. There's nothing there. Like that's a given. But on the other side of that is this was the first time all year / ever that you've had Ja, Dez, Gigi, and Jaren on the court at the same time. This is Vince's first game back. He played 4 games prior. It's like his 4th or 5th game of the year. So like we got a full healthy team back, but there was no time to gel and play together. And that's a big part of basketball, is chemistry. And so I'm not making excuses, because we didn't give a flying blue, you know what, Saturday night. And it was evident from the jump. The only person who was invested, and like, I hope you're sitting down, like Taylor Jenkins was, like, he was fired up. He was feisty. There was rumors that he was tearing it up in the locker room. Like, he was invested in it when literally nobody else was, except for one player, number 5, Vince Williams Jr. Buddy, he at the like midway point to the 4th quarter, my guy needed the oxygen mask that they have on the football sidelines, because he was hustling like wildfire. And it brought us back, because we were down 28 at one point, and we got that sucker to a 12-point game. And like, it felt like we had all the momentum. And I saw on Twitter, people were like, yeah, you made a comeback, but then you took Gigi and Vince out. Brother, Vince was dying. If he played another minute, he was done.
Listen, Gigi wasn't very good either. He had some highlight plays, but he was a mess defensively and on rebounding the ball as well.
Yeah.
What happened is in the 4th quarter, the back half of the 3rd quarter and the first half of the 4th quarter, Vince and Jaren provided a boost to that team, just activity. Oklahoma City started missing some shots. They kind of regressed to the mean a little bit with their 3-point shot. You started rebounding a little bit better. And then Vince Williams Jr. hustle just got the juices flowing for the team and the fans. And there was a wide open 3-point shot by Desmond Bain while the Grizzlies are down 12 to cut it to 9 that he misses. And if he makes it, cuts it to 9, I mean, you've got life, like real life in this game. 6-7 minutes to go in the game, and he misses it. And then you just had to pull Vince and Jaren at that point just because they're gassed. And then it balloons back out to 12, 15, or 15, 16. And then it's over at that point. You had no fight. You had no fight from the starters. And I hear your point about continuity. It's a point that I've made many times. But at this point, Jaren and Desmond have continuity. They're the team that's going to win and lose games. And John Morant, I don't want to hear the talk about continuity. It was just, he was not there for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, they came in our house and pushed us around. And so hopefully we've got that out of our system. It's over. It's done. I've spent enough time talking about it. Like, you hate that we just had a gut check game 2 weeks ago. Hopefully we had another gut check game Saturday night. It is sad that we continue to have these, but hopefully it got our attention and got us back right, because we played tonight, as of this recording, a late night Grizz After Dark, 9 p.m. local tip against the Phoenix Suns. Again, I said this on our show Thursday and on the Daily Grind on Friday. Like, you have an opportunity to hit reset, right? Like, Saturday we could hit reset. It'd have been a great palate cleanser. It'd have been perfect, but we didn't do that. Now we have a chance tonight to do the same thing against the Suns. If you go out and if you punk the Suns tonight, it can go a long way in salving some of the wounds. Yes, it sucks that we lost Oklahoma City on our home court and got embarrassed. Sidebar, I was bitching about us not getting the national TV game on Saturday to you when we were at lunch. Really glad we didn't get that national TV game after all.
Yeah, we would have been the laughing stock if that game was on national TV, seeing us getting punked and T. Morant getting tossed out of the game from the first row. Yeah. It'd have been ugly. Yeah, so Phoenix currently is 500, 26-26. They're 5-5 in their last 10, and they have lost 1 game in a row. So their losing streak is at 1. Phoenix is not very good. They're old. They made trades at the deadline to get off of people. You know, they got off of Yusuf Nurkic, who was a locker room cancer. But then you've gone through a whole season of it feels like a whole season of trying to get Jimmy Butler to Phoenix and trying to get rid of Bradley Beal and then getting rid of Kevin Durant to try to make room for Jimmy Butler. There's just no way that this team is in a good headspace. There was rumors Thursday afternoon that it was a disaster, that the locker room was just in shambles.
Yeah.
And I get it. Now, they're all professionals. Maybe by Tuesday night, they've gotten straight and just going to be about business. But this team is not very good. It's on the road in Phoenix. The Grizzlies, if they win, it's a good win. It's not the, it's not a win against the Hornets by any chance.
Right.
But it doesn't totally resolve a bad loss to the Thunder either.
But it can go a long way if you win tonight and tomorrow night on the back half of the back-to-back when we play at the Clippers. And so you talk about the Suns locker room. I tweeted out on the trade deadline that night. It was like somebody did like a NBA deadline superlatives. And so I hopped in, and biggest winner being the Spurs or Cavs, biggest loser being the Mavs long-term plans. And the last one was saddest player post-trade deadline. And I said, pick anyone in the Phoenix Suns locker room because it's just toxic. It's gross. And it's so sad, too, because we're not that far removed. I mean, Cam Johnson's rookie year was, 3 years ago when they were in the NBA Finals?
So I'll look it up. I think it was 3 or 4.
It was 3 or 4 years ago. We're not so in NBA terms, we're not that far removed from them being in the NBA Finals and on the cusp of it. All they needed was when Chris Paul moved on is they needed a point guard. But instead, they go get Bradley Beal. They do all this funny money and all these weird trades and build up this old roster, and it falls apart. Nurkic ends up being a bum and a thorn in that locker room. And then you got, known troublemaker, I guess, Kevin Durant. Bradley Beal's been a diva. It's just been gross ever since then. And you want to write you can hate and boo on Zach Kleiman and what the Grizzlies are doing all you want, but at least we're not the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, that was the 2020, 2020 or 21-22 season. The finals was in 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's not right. That's not right. Because that would have been the COVID, the bubble final.
So, no, it would have been the 21-22.
No, that's right. No, it's right. That's right. It's a 21. It was a shortened season in 21. That's right. 2020, 2021. 2019, 2020 was the bubble. Right. And so, yeah, that's the Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson team, DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Team that was so good that got beat by the Bucks in the finals. And then they tanked the whole thing for Kevin Durant, which the idea was pretty good, but then how you built out around him with the bones of Bradley Beal, it just hasn't worked out. And so
then the rest of it, you're having to basically get great value players because you put all your eggs in 2 baskets, and then you're like having to shop bottom shelf after that.
Yeah, I mean, you got former Grizzly Grayson Allen, as their sharpshooter, and you need to go win this game. You do need to go win this game.
Yeah. This is a game that we can't mess around with. You need to go get this win. You need to go, they got former Grizzly backup point guard Tyus Jones as well. Like it's a reunion of sorts for both of those. But this is a game you got to win. Like it feels like once a week we've got I know we're in February, but about once a week right now, we're having one of those games that I won't call it a must win, but we'll say at least a need to win. And tonight is one of those heading into the game on Wednesday against another old sluggish Clippers team that we shouldn't really have a lot of trouble with. I mean, they beat us earlier this year, 114-110 on December 23rd. It was an ugly game. We didn't have a reason that we should have lost that game other than just, again, lack of effort. But anyway, got an opportunity. We're 8-2. We're 8-2 in our last 10. They're 5-5 in their last 10. This is another game that we should win.
Yeah, be careful besmirching the Clippers. I know that, they're 29-23. The record isn't one that you think you should have much problem with. They're the 7 seed. So this looks like a potential first-round matchup for the Grizzlies. And they are top 10 in every defensive category, basically. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing we know about this Grizzlies team is when they're punched in the mouth and their offense can't get going, then they fold. And so that's a game that's kind of more prove it to me more than the Phoenix game, because if they start this game with, Kawhi on John Morant, you're just going to see what the metal of this team is made out of, because they don't do well when they're defended hard.
No, they don't. If a team is physical, they give us trouble. And this team can be physical. They just got Ben Simmons. They got a new Clipper. If his back holds up, he might be all right, But this team's gonna be very physical. And we're going to have to see what we do. We stepped up to the challenge against Houston in our last game against them, and then we cowered down against Oklahoma City. So the last 2 returns are 50-50 on physical teams. We'll see what happens on Wednesday night. Last thing I want to touch on before we wrap this show up a little bit early for y'all today, since we're not here. Thanks again, Future Rusty, for keeping the comments popping. What about this Mark Williams thing? We've talked about it a little bit. The trade falling through, like, that's kind of a weird situation. Like, it's awkward for Dalton Knecht now to go back to the Lakers. Mark Williams, essentially, for those of you living under a rock, Mark Williams was traded to the Lakers from the Hornets for Dalton Knecht and some compensation. And then he failed his physical, not for his back, but probably for his knee. He's been having knee trouble forever. And so the trade fell through. So the Lakers do not have a true big man center at this point. And Mark Williams goes back to the Hornets. So, like, any thoughts on the Lakers Hornets post-trade debacle?
Yeah. The Lakers are probably kicking themselves for not signing Bismack quick enough. I think he went to the Spurs, right? So
he went to the Spurs or somebody, but you know who their one true center is?
It's Jackson Hayes?
Trey Jemison, baby.
Oh, good God. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, that's like quitting your job and asking for it back the next day, you know?
Yeah.
I think the NBA is going to do some investigating on this because there was a report that he wasn't totally right, and then the guy apologized the next day saying he got bad information. And so it seems like maybe the Hornets were trying to cut corners in order to get off of Mark Williams. Because there has been a credit, Chris Vernon on the Mismatch, the Ringer podcast. He came out and shared a clip from the halftime report of a Hornets game in which they were getting blown out by the Wizards, and their commentator just nuked Mark Williams for not even trying. Like, how do you have a 9-foot 9-inch standing reach and never block a shot? And so there's some motor stuff there that doesn't quite fit there's a reason why we're not talking about Mark Williams given his tools and his just physical makeup.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Although he did come out and cook the Grizzlies earlier this year.
He did score 38 against the Grizzlies. That is true.
The centers on the Lakers roster are Jackson Hayes, Max Kleber, who's out with a foot injury, Christian Koloko, and former Grizzly great Trey Jemison.
Yeah, you know Christian Koloko is a bull in a china shop. He's the one that hurt Ja by taking him out of the air when he tried to catch an alley-oop earlier in the season. So, I mean, I'm not, here we are. This is Tuesday. That trade happened, last Saturday night?
When it fell apart,
Yeah, well, no, when Luka got traded. And today I'm just like, I don't know that I fear either team more than I did beforehand. And speaking of, we need to talk with Anthony Davis showed up in true form.
Yeah. I sent you a tweet. They got the full AD experience in 4 quarters. Like, he's back.
Amazing.
Best player in the world. Nope. There he is. Injured reserve.
Yeah. They're talking about now that it's possibly surgery and out for the season. And if that's the case, like, you're going to have to move the team just to find somewhere else to live and not get murdered.
I mean, that's it. Because Nico Harrison is like, he's going to have to call all his old high school friends. Shout out Billy Madison, because he is at the top of a lot of hit lists at this point.
Yeah. And this is coming out on Tuesday. It is Monday, but all the things on ESPN right now are talking about Luka's first game. He's going to play tonight for the Lakers, and they have painted the Staples Center with Luka jersey. They're giving out Luka jerseys to every single person in attendance tonight. And it's like the welcome he's getting in LA, and they're just rubbing your face in it. It's just absolutely. Like, because you know how the Lakers are covered from a national standpoint. Like, you will never hear the end of this. This trade will be celebrated as the greatest heist of all time.
It is. And all you Faker fans here in Memphis are taking victory laps about it and all this kind of stuff. And I've never seen more videos of team photos or early shoot arounds or sitting on the bench or whatever of Luka like I've seen. It's ad nauseum at this point. But I mean, I hope Nico Harrison sees every single one of them, because like you looked the fool, the court gesture. You literally gave up a generational player for a player made of paper mache. Now, Max Christie's been pretty good for the Mavs. He filled it up the other day, too, on Saturday. He had a good
Lakers,
game.
But that's a nobody in this trade.
But I was about to say, but he doesn't matter. And then you get one first-round pick. Like, I hope, like, Nico Harrison is a Max Christie ankle turn, Kyrie, back sprain away from being tarred and feathered right now in Dallas.
Max Christie is nothing. And it's almost comical, even though I wish the roles were reversed. I wish it was the Lakers that were, falling apart like this. Mm-hmm. But for AD to go out, he said, we're thinking for the next 3 to 5 years it makes us better contenders. Well, you hitched your wagon to the most injury-prone, dominating superstar ever.
Him and Joel Embiid. But you got a skinny Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid is now likely heading towards knee surgery this offseason, and neither of those guys can stay healthy. They'll show flashes where they are truly the best player in the world, and then Joel Embiid will duck Nikola Jokic and then be out for 6 weeks with a knee injury. And now AD, same thing. He came in and looked like the best player in the world, saying, I'm here. And then he was gone.
And then he's like I'm there. I'm there on the bench with street clothes.
I'm there. That's it. Well, that's going to do it for our show today on Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out with us in the comments. Thanks for being here, Uncle Buck. I hope you had a great meeting today. Hope everything went well with your substation planning and you stayed awake, and I'm honestly talking about it. But we'll be back here live on Thursday, live like we never left. Be sure to be there. Let us know about this show, how terrible it was. Be in the comments. Argue with us on Thursday. Hopefully we'll be 2-0 this week on that Thursday show, and we'll get you prepped for All-Star Weekend. So with that, thanks for being here, Uncle Buck. Thanks for making this happen a day early. And there are no refunds for what you hear on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. See you guys on Thursday.
Go Grizz.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.